welcome to April Reading Wrap-Ups. These are all the books I hadn't set out that I finished, or in the case of one, did not finish this month. So before we go into the details of the books, I do want to go over just some quick stats. First, we read 10 books and we did DNF 1. I'm going to call it a soft DNF. I'm not sure if I'm fully done with it or if I may try and go back to it. I wonder if it's a case of the book was okay, although I do feel like I have some strong feelings. We'll get into those in a minute. I had some really strong feelings that there were some other books on my list that I really wanted to read. So the average time on my TBR was 9.4 months. I had an average rating of 3.7 stars, which is very good. I've had a very good reading year. I've been doing a lot of rereading. However, I will say that this month didn't feel quite as strong as others, although that number kind of tells me that it was fairly well. I read an average of 412 pages and a total of 4,123 pages. I did not count any pages in the book that I DNF'd, even though I did get about 50% of the way through. And as far as how much we're progressing on reading down our physical TBR, we have brought up that percentage to 51.78%. I don't believe I really bought any books except for maybe my book of the month. I think I got book of the month in April. Yeah, I did. I didn't really bring any books in the month of April, which is fantastic because March I brought in a ridiculous amount that was way too many. Let's go ahead and start off with our DNF. Our DNF, this was part of my April reading challenge, is a book that I've been so excited to read. I think there's even a movie off of it with Sandra Bullock, if I remember right. I don't know, I haven't seen it, and I thought about if that is the case, I need to go read the book. Maybe I'll get a little bit more invested. For some reason, I just didn't connect with the characters. I didn't understand why we were reading this story about the characters. It just seemed like you're telling me a story that I'm not invested in, I don't care to read about. But I feel like I want to love this book, especially because I love the magic. I love all of that. Those things, I didn't really feel that in the book. I didn't really feel like the magic. But this one I would call it DNF. I'm not completely done with it, but for now, I'm not going back. This was our blind date with the book, The Night Swim by Megan Golden, the woman who died. And the sister wants to get the truth out there. And there's also this other woman who runs this podcast called Guilty or Not Guilty. And she's going to the same town where this girl's sister died to cover a trial that's very similar to it's all interconnected together. So this woman's trying to help her, and so she's covering this trial and also trying to help this woman solve her sister's murder or death, because a lot of people called it kind of an accident or, purposeful, whatever. I absolutely love this book. I love the format of the book. I love the writing. The message is impactful. I highly recommend this book. I am very partial because it's Megan Golden. The second book I read of her, every single one has been a 5-star. Absolutely can't put down. Highly recommend, and I will also link my blind date with the book review challenge where I talk about this, and also my individual review of it. All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. This was a fantastic book about a woman went missing 10 years ago. Nobody really knows what happens. This woman comes back. She was friends with the girl that went missing. She comes back to help her kind of get her father's estate in order. And then there's another woman who goes missing right after asking about the original girl, Corinne, that went missing. And it's this, what is going on? The story is told backwards, which I think makes it kind of hard to follow. So you always feel like you're never quite understanding what is going on. At first, the format kind of got me. I did end up really liking the way it all came together, the way that format worked. I think it really aided in the story. And I had a great time with this, and I would highly recommend. Secret to See Stars by Christopher Paolini. I will say this is a fantastic fantasy book. The world building is amazing, so intricate. It's a little long for me, but it does have that fantasy, sci-fi, where it's very detailed, it's very descriptive, it's very helping you understand exactly what's going into this world and all the little intricacies. It was a fantastic book. I understand objectively why this is a fantastic book. It just didn't really work for me. It was kind of okay, and I had to kind of gut through it. But I think it's in a series. I don't think I'm going to be continuing the series. But essentially, it's about a woman who goes into space, comes in with contact with this alien form type thing. It melds with her, and then there's this world there's this war between like the different worlds and like species and stuff, and they're fighting and trying to kind of save everybody. The Thicket, this was such a fantastic book. I also have this like weird obsession with holding it. I love like it's got this like rubbery feel. I don't know. Such a good book. I loved it. This is about a haunted house attraction where a murder happens, a double murder happens, but people are like walking right by it. The murderer walks right out covered in blood because everybody thinks it's part of the attraction. And the murderer left the attraction and like nobody knows what happens, but then the attraction place a few weeks later opens back up. People go to it and things don't go obviously as expected. I will say very good writing. It's not necessarily an extremely fast pace. It's kind of got this like things are happening, but yet it's just kind of like a what's happening. It's kind of a weird vibe. I really liked it. Twist at the end, definitely didn't see that coming. Although I have a love-hate relationship with it in the sense that like I don't want to give anything away. The ending is definitely not what's expected, and I would say very fantastic. All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. This is about a woman whose son went missing about a year ago, and she has not slept since, and she's determined to help solve this case because there are absolutely no leads, no clues. She, does podcasts, she does talking events, all these things in hopes to solve it. This is one of those books that is a very classic mystery, kind of psychological thriller, if you will. You think you kind of are figuring it out. You're going down the rabbit hole with this main character, and then she learns information, and you're like, oh, maybe, and you go down another rabbit hole with her. I will say the ending, I didn't necessarily see it coming. I don't know that you would be able to see it coming. It's not like a complete shocker or anything, but the ending was interesting. The book was interesting. It definitely keeps you intrigued because you never quite know. You're going down these rabbit holes with her, and very well written book. Black Cake by Tremaine Wilkerson. This is a book about a woman who passes away, and then she leaves this recording for her two children who are not really getting along at this time. And it's telling the story about this woman who came from somewhere else, escapes, and you're trying to figure out like what is the importance of this story? Who are these people in this story? And maybe who their mother is, their father is not really what they have always grown up knowing. I will say this is a very well written book. The story is intriguing. It's a little slower paced. There's a lot going on, and I would highly recommend. It was really well written. The character building was very great too. The Collective by Allison Galen. This is about a woman whose child ended up getting murdered, and she believes she knows who is at fault, and she wants justice. She ends up kind of getting into this cult through the internet, and then she gets involved in it, and she realizes maybe this cult is not, she doesn't think it's cult. She just thinks it's like a group of like support and like, let's get, our justice and all that stuff. But it's not necessarily exactly what she thought it was, and then is trying to unravel what exactly is this? Can she still get her justice for her child? And all of those things. This was a well-written book. I wasn't as thrilled with it as I thought I was going to be, although I did have a good time, and I don't see anything necessarily wrong with it. I may or may not read it again. We'll see. Trust by Hernan Diaz. This is about a couple very high up in society, very well off. A book has gotten written about them, and then they read the book. The gentleman that the book is about reads it. He doesn't like it, wants it rewritten. So the format of this is fun in the sense that like you read the book, you hear the story, you read the book, you kind of go back and forth. So you're never really sure which part is through the eye of the writer of the book or through his interpretation of what he thinks his life is. So you're trying to figure out like what is the full truth of this. I feel like you never fully get like, no, this and this, it isn't true. This is what the truth is. It's kind of one of those like, there's a little bit of truth in everything, and you have to figure out how to combine them. It's a slow paced, well written book. There's no like super highs, super lows. Reads very documentary like. You could see kind of just the story as it happens. Well written. I did enjoy. Absolute favorite book of the month. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This was a fantastic book. Even though the topics are very deep, I think she puts in the right amount of humor into it. The subject is good. Like, it's definitely an impactful story. It's definitely something I would read again. This is just about her time growing up as a child actor or child actress, her relationship with her mother, and how very flawed it was, and flawed the industry is, and how that's had these lifelong lasting impacts. But I think it's a fantastic book, and I would highly recommend. And I did not grow up watching her, and I still was invested in her and her story. These are the 10 books we read for the month of April and the one DNF. And I will see you in the next one.